this thing is so nice that you guys are doing this. This is wonderful. This is great. She says, if I went to a paid tax preparer, she said, it would cost me like $50 for each new form they filled out, and it does.
1 minute until showtime.
5 seconds.
So,
All right.
so
Yeah, it's good service. Yeah, definitely saving a lot of people.
yeah.
Yep.
Jay Nunez. Where is he? I got him pulled up here. No love lost. Here he is. Out of Napa, a natural winery. Did you get all the information I sent you?
Yeah, I got an email with his name. I think it was. It didn't follow all the way through, but I got enough on it. I went to the website.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know why that
emails are getting
doesn't.
chopped off.
Yeah.
Could be Gmail or something not get so much of it, and then it goes, all right, I'm done. Who knows?
Yeah. That's strange because it does that every time I send you something.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4,
seconds.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Blog Talk Radio.
There we go. Should have still. Oh. Okay, where'd the video go? I did it before we started, and it worked fine. Hang on, people.
It's not doing it now.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Hang on, there's like 3 of them open now because I kept pushing the button. Let me try that again. That was a panic.
This is All About Wine, the talk show dedicated to the wine industry since 2009. Featuring winemaker, cellar master, vineyardist, and tasting expert, Ron.
Basically what we're trying to do on this program is just trying to educate people and trying to make wine less confusing and more friendly.
From coast to coast and around the world.
We really have had some neat people on the program. I love that.
Post your questions and comments during the live show on our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/allaboutwinebtr. Again, that's www.facebook.com/allaboutwinebtr. And now, All About Wine is on. Here's Ron.
Happy people. They're happy tonight because they're out there before the rains come in and hit us. We're going to get swamped tomorrow, so they're happy that it hasn't came in early.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. Where's that? We have a guest tonight, Jay Nunez from No Love Lost Wines, or No Love Lost Wine Company, actually technically is the name, in Napa. And it's natural wines. So he's supposed to be calling us shortly here. In fact, let me go back and see. Oh, there he is.
Yeah. Looks like it.
So he's in the green room. We'll bring him out here and get him on the show, and I'll let him tell you all about the winery. So welcome to All About Wine, Jay. Thanks for joining us tonight.
I appreciate you having me on, and thank you for the opportunity to tell the world a little more about what we're doing here in Napa.
No, it's our pleasure. Believe me. So you are in Napa, and you are a natural winery. But first, before we get into the winery itself, I want you to tell me how Jay Nunez got his journey from the beginning to where you are now.
Yeah, I'm an audio engineer by trade. I did music before wine, live sound, production work, played in bands, and that really gave me an opportunity to see the country and some of the world and to explore at a young age, which I'm very grateful for. And through one of those, job-required trips, I had a couple days free while I was in San Francisco before I had to be in Santa Barbara. I decided to rent a car and go up to wine country, and I ended up quitting the tour and staying to work harvest, and the rest is history.
Oh, I bet the band was not thrilled with your decision at that point.
I had worked for a lot better bands, kinder people, so they made the decision rather easy.
Ah, there you go. Okay. So then you got the bug and you started to work with wineries up there? That's what happened?
Yeah, I had a mentor at the beginning, and I worked a couple unofficial harvests, and I took a rather unconventional approach to where I'm at today. I actually worked more on the sales side of things, pursuing sommelier certifications, CMS certified, WSET3, amongst a few of them. And then I also went to school at Napa College, which has a fantastic winery tech program on the viticulture and enology side of things. And thank you to the program director, Paul Gazdadarzik, who's now not only a great mentor but a good friend of mine, for giving me the opportunity to make some wine from some of the school grapes, and that's where the project started.
Ah, okay. So you got your knowledge and all that through school and everything. So how did No Love Lost Wine Company get its beginnings?
Yeah, I was a co-founder in an educational company, the basis of which was to help people further their sommelier certifications and assist people that were trying to get into the industry into places that felt comfy. And I'm a first-generation Cuban-American from Florida, so there's not a lot of us in the Valley, let me tell you. So
I can imagine there isn't.
Yeah, and I was in search of community, and I didn't want anyone else to feel the way. Although Napa's fantastic and it was super supportive, I didn't want anyone else to feel like this was an old boys club. And I had been passionate about providing access and developing an inclusive community, which is part of that first organization. And when I walked away from that to focus purely on winemaking, I let the guys know who I was doing that with, hey, No Love Lost, I love what you're doing, but I got to go focus on this. And that was in 2019.
Oh, wow, rather recent. So No Love Lost was started then by you and a partner?
I am the sole person, and we have one fantastic employee who also does the vineyard side of things for me, Blaze Williams. He's our content coordinator, tasting room manager. I jokingly refer to him as my babysitter. He keeps me in line when I reach too far or have too big of a dream.
Oh, I don't think never too big. So it's just the two of you. Well, then, wow, I was looking at your website and all the wines you make. How many acres of vineyards do you have?
So we exclusively work with family-owned vineyards that are systemic herbicide and pesticide-free. We're really big on leading by example. When we were schooling ourselves at Napa College and learning, what it meant to purely focus on sustainable viticultural practices, I think that was one of the first things that spoke to me. And so we work with 21 vineyards. They're all family-owned. They're all fantastic families that have basically become family to us at this point. And we farm one of them. It's our Sonoma Valley Cabernet. And we work really closely consulting with the day-to-day operations and farming practices at each individual site. Still a lot of ground to cover. Acreage I'm not quite sure of because we do take a couple full vineyards, but we also, share some of the vineyards with other like-minded organizations as well.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. The natural winery. Explain natural. I've talked about it before, but explain what natural means.
Yeah, it's kind of a gray area, and there are no legal definitions at this point, which is definitely something that we're working on. But to me, if you distilled it down to the essence, when you're drinking a natural wine, the producer should be conscientious of minimizing inputs and not utilizing any synthetic chemicals in the growing or the growing of the grapes or producing of the wine. We go as far as utilizing the most carbon conscious materials for bottling. We were 100% recycled glass up until 2021, but unfortunately our source for that was pushed out of their facility. So now we use the lightest molds possible. We use recycled paper stock for the labels. We use food grade ink to print on the labels, and nothing is ever added to the wines except the minimal amount of sulfur, which is a natural byproduct of fermentation.
Right.
So we're trying to minimize inputs from grape to glass and provide the consumer with a level of transparency that if they're interested in the technical jargon, they can dive deeper through our website and social media channels to kind of discover or unearth what we're, no pun intended, what we're doing to maintain that natural title. And to me, it basically, it's funny that natural wines oftentimes are flawed. So we do make natural wine, but we make clean natural wine. Natural wine that's reflective and representative of tradition and classical styles. And we like to say we're not new, we're reverting back to ancestral techniques pre-implementation of technology in the space.
Everybody has heard and seen, and they know and are aware of organic. Obviously, it's on labels and it's food and all that other stuff. How is natural different or even the same as organic?
So I think when people look at organic, what they have to take into consideration is that it's only really covering the growing of the grapes. And oftentimes the facilities that use organic grapes are using conventional methods to make the wine, which means they're introducing carcinogenic chemicals and unsustainable practices at the facility that they're making the wines in. So organic is big for us. Most of the vineyards that we use are certified organic. But some of the vineyards we work with are so small that it would just be too costly and time consuming to pursue the CCOS certification for organic. So what we want to do is really get in there and tangibly put our hands in the dirt and get involved so that we know that, nothing is going on that we're not approving of. And we're hoping that just like there is a certification board for organic, that in the future, if we continue to push, we can have an organization similar to that can also brand or give out the certification for natural wine.
There are a lot of different things out there now, besides natural. One of the big ones is biodynamic, which is starting to make a move, and regenerative, and all of these. In your opinion, since you went natural, how is that something that's so different or so much better than any of these other things going on?
It's not better, and I think it's more the same than different. When you look at Rudolf Steiner's ideology, the founder of the biodynamic practice system, his whole goal was to close the loop at each individual site and utilize what was given to them at that site to ensure a healthy farm. When you think regenerative, to me, it's just another way to say sustainable. There's a multitude of different things that we're doing to culturally adapt the soils without chemicals. That includes curating custom cover crops for each individual site that would grow between the vines. Oftentimes we're interplanting other things within the vines to make sure that there's a level of biodiversity that will promote the attraction of pollinators in the area. So to circle back and answer the question, I think that biodynamic is a thought system that relies heavily upon things that aren't necessarily data-driven. And we do some biodynamic practices, but some of them just, it's not that we disagree with them. It falls out of our scope of factual understanding. And regenerative, I think, is something that if you're speaking sustainable and natural, has to be exactly what you're focused on, because at the end of the day, our goal is to have zero inputs from grape to glass. That includes water, that includes sulfur, that includes any soil addending that might have to take place. Obviously, we're familiar with the tools, the winemaker tools in our toolbox, and we'll use them if we have to, but the goal is to have a vineyard that's so healthy it produces beautiful grapes just the way it is.
Okay, very good. Well, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot to have you compare other systems. It's just that we hear about all these other systems and all that, and obviously you have embraced the natural and find that works best for you. And so, I just wanted to know how these others would compare to yours. So, yeah, like I say, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Oh, no, it's fine. I love talking about it, and I think the Venn diagram actually, if you put them in a Venn diagram, the overlap would be much more than the difference.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it would be too. All these movements and all that are really becoming, talked about more, I think, than the wine is. I mean, it's we're hearing about all these different. Go on.
That's something that we should really touch on, because when I'm at a natural wine fair, festival, expo, however you want to tag it, a lot of the wines I taste are terrible, and a lot of the wines I taste are flawed. And then I get the finger pointed, or we get the finger pointed, saying, you must have done some magic technological procedure here because your wines are clean. And that's not the case. And I think that if you look at these things as a novelty and as a trend, you'll make a wine that doesn't make sense. But if you look at it as a system of values and ethics, you'll work like I did through many, many failed experiments into finding a way that works without having to use the technology or the chemicals.
Ah, there you go. That's interesting. So you are the winemaker for every one of your wines?
Yes, sir. A lot of ground to cover.
All right, very, very good. Well, you're right about the fact that when I've tried different wines, I have been less than overwhelmed on more than one occasion. And I think what it does is when you pick up, let's use natural as an example. You pick up a bottle of natural in the store, you go home, you taste it, you go, wow, this is really not that good. And it sort of sets a precedent for all other natural wines that you might grab. And the same is true with organic, regenerative, biodynamic, any of those. And like you just said, there are some of them out there that aren't real tasty, if you will. And so how do you get across? I mean, people come in to your winery and say, oh, I've had natural wines before and I wasn't real impressed with them. What is your approach to something like that?
That's a great question, and something that we deal with, a battle that we fight every day. My original perspective, and it was born from a place of inspiration, I was drawn to artists that were enigmatic and mysterious and left room for your imagination to grow the concept into something the artists themselves might not have ever dreamed it could be. And now we're realizing that we have to be a little more forward with the natural thing. And for a time, we even considered calling it fourth wave wine or alternative wine, because a lot of the natural wines just suck. And now we're finding the importance of waving the flag for the natural community and letting your regular consumers know that there is quality here. There are classic representations of grapes and reflections of terroir in the space. And it's not just wines that are mousy and riddled with sediment and flaws. And I think that education, regardless of the question that's being asked, is the answer. And I will say that the connoisseur is in search of new experience, so those are the easy ones to win over. It's your everyday consumer that gets biased by something they read or one bad bottle that is typically turned off from something like that. And that's the thing, is that we're trying to develop a level of inclusivity and access. And like, we make sparkling Riesling, but we also make slutty Napa Cab for the right, for the person that comes into the tasting room in downtown Napa that wants that. The difference is we're doing it in a way that we're proud of and that is sustainable and utilizing sustainable practices. But it's not so far of a departure from what they're used to having taste-wise or sensually speaking.
I see. Yeah, well, it's. I think it would be a hard sell to try to convert people, especially since there's so many wines out there. It would be a hard sell to convert people on to the benefits and the flavors of natural wine, especially if they've had ones that were not up to what they should be. So.
Well, and the irony there, is that the natural wine community can oftentimes be very insular and gate-kept and willing to sacrifice the growth of the community for keeping only a specific kind of person in. And I think that's a fatal flaw, just like the cult Napa Cab producers that want to be ultra-luxury premium and only sell $1,000 bottles. You're excluding, so many communities, and to me, it's kind of counterintuitive, because if you're really dedicating yourself to the culture and to the space, you're dedicating your life to wine, then you want the sector, the segment, the industry to grow. You don't want to exclude or alienate anyone, and that's what we're working towards. Is and yeah, come harvest, I don't sleep much, and there's 4 months of hell, but we make 20 wines because we want your grandma to have a wine she likes, and we want the 21-year-old hipster with the pronoun to also enjoy something,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's funny you said that. I had a group of guys on that are into cigars, and they do cigar blogs and stuff like that, and we were just talking last night about a $100 cigar that this one company came out with. And everybody, and I immediately had to think about wine while they were talking about cigars. They said it's just like a novelty. Why would they get it? Is it really worth $100? Or is it just a fancy wrapper on a $20, $15 cigar? And it just caught my attention, because a lot of times these very expensive Cabernets are fancy wrappers on some that are just as good out there and cost a fraction of that. And so when you start coming out with these natural wines that have quality and all that, it doesn't have to be, $200-300. It can be, less than $100, and find yourself a following with those. So, it just a thought occurred to me. I wasn't, and there's no question or anything there.
No, that's very well said. At the end of the day, there is no correlation between price and quality. It's just the axiom of supply and demand. So my Adidas cross trainers shoes aren't any better or worse than the Louis Vuittons that they're selling for 10 times as much,
Exactly. They will last just as long, probably, and they will perform as you want them to perform, and you're not spending an ungodly amount for them. So, yeah, and the same thing goes with wine or cigars or any number of things out there. You get what you pay for, but that's up to a certain point. You don't want to buy the cheapest, and you don't want to buy the most expensive. There's so many good quality everything's in the middle. Your wines, you, like you said, you have a bunch of different wines here, and I'm sure that you try to participate as much as you can in the harvest of every one of them. Do you go stainless steel, or do you go oak, or do you do a combination of both on most of your wines, or tell us about your production.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I am full hands on deck for every single fermentation I pick up in an old F-250 with a trailer, all the grapes that come in. I work with the families leading into harvest to make sure everything is looking good. I look at this as my art, and I'm very grateful to be living my dream. And at the end of the day, this brand will only scale to the point where I can still do everything on the production side. It really just, our portfolio is so diverse that the vinification protocol really is just dictated and dependent and determined by the style of wine I'm making and the grapes. So we do, for example, a Riesling. We've done a sparkling Riesling, we've done a dry Riesling, we've done a Spätlese style. But regardless of the residual sugar content, that's always fermented in stainless steel and aged in stainless steel barrels. But then we also do a Napa Cab, right? And that Napa Cab will see a small amount of new oak. And it will see a hotter and warmer and quicker fermentation because that's what the style commands. So I think that when you're in the space and you dedicate yourself to being a natural winemaker, you have to embrace the idea of straddling the line between flaw and character and nurturing natural processes instead of imparting your personality or the industry requirements to the wine. So we do have a level of variability from harvest to harvest, from vintage to vintage, but the wines will always share their DNA. And to me, that is how you guarantee that each vintage is a true reflection of site and a true reflection of time. So I mean, it's tough to say that I have a universal approach, but I will say that we're using less new oak. I will say that we're aging wines a little less than they would in Rioja or they would in the cult cab houses of the valley. And I would say that the wines are fresher in style and carry as much savory as they do fruit forward or perceivable sweet compounds. And I think that is what makes it special and unique. It's a willingness to dive into that which we can't control and embrace it completely.
Wow. You mentioned oak. You use French, American. What oak are you?
We have 100% French oak. The beauty of being in Napa, it gives us, it gives us access to so much great oak, so much great French oak barrels that are lightly used. So we have begun to buy some new barrels, but until 2021, we were using exclusively used oak barrels, not necessarily neutral. We call them Napa neutral here. They're used once, they're used twice. They got a lot of life left in them.
They do, yeah.
But just to give you like a global grasp, the newer the barrels, the more likely they're going to go into the Bordelaise varietals that we make. The more neutral the barrels, the more it's going to go into the Rhone stuff. So Grenache, Counoise, Carignan. And then for the whites, we're beginning to experiment with a little bit of oak on the Chardonnay. The Sauvignon Blanc will always be stainless steel fermented and stainless steel aged, same as the Riesling. The Rosé, funny enough, gets aged for a handful of months in our most neutral barrels. And that's another story that we can talk about at a later date. But so the portfolio, the focus of the portfolio is putting terroir, a sense of place, to the forefront more so than cellar practices.
Okay, so if you're trying to promote the terroir, you want to not over oak or over ferment or anything. You want to bring out the natural filling of the land and all that. And oak, I don't think, does that as well as natural. Maybe a little oak. I like oak in certain things, but I've always been one that if I pick up a wine and sip it and it's just heavily oaked, I'm thinking, what is the winemaker hiding? Because when something's heavily oaked, you can hide flaws, and that's always my thought. So when something's got just that hint of oak in there, enough that you can smell it and taste it, that is my favorite, actually. So
I love that, and I think. Oak is like salt with your food. You want the food to pop, but the second you taste the salt, you've gone too far. And
yeah, exactly, and that's how I look at oak too. I mean, I think that is there a flaw there that they're trying to cover up by putting all this oak in it? Because I mean, aging is great and aging is wonderful, and I've had wines that are aging, but 95 to 98% of the people in the country don't age their wines; they drink them, and so when you have all that oak in it, it's a waste, I think, because most people drink it and not really enjoy the nuances of the wine itself because it's so oaked. So, well,
agreed.
I'm going to talk. You mentioned a lot of them, but I want to talk a little bit more detail about your wines themselves. The Dry Creek Riesling. Tell us a little bit about it from the Dry Creek AVA, but tell us a little bit about that wine.
So it is technically Dry Creek AVA, but that's where the parallels stop. It's northern Sonoma County. It's about 45 minutes west of Healdsburg up into the coastal range, 2,000 feet or so elevation, overlooking Lake Sonoma. The founder of the property was doing a soil survey after planting a bunch of red varietals, and he found a small pocket of blue slate and granite, two soils or compositions of, rock that aren't that common in the coastal range. So he traced back what grows well in that, and he found Riesling. He planted 1 acre of Riesling. When I found out that it was available, I left the Sonoma Cat Vineyard that we farm. I told the owner, I said, I'll be there in 45 minutes, thinking he was in Healdsburg. He goes, I don't think it's going to be 45. I think it's going to be like 2 hours. So he said, you drive until you think you've gone too far, and then you drive another 25 minutes. And it's the most beautiful, hands down, the most beautiful vineyard that we work with. Fruit quality, the Mr. G, Mr. Gustafson over there is producing, I think it's phenomenal. I've experimented with it because of the finicky nature of the grape. It's the hardest wine that I make. It's the hardest grape I literally have worked with. So
really?
I've done it off 100%. Riesling is the most manipulated grape. And it makes sense because it's German, right? They like to engineer things, and they like to use a lot of sulfur. And it's a varietal that you could easily do 100 parts per million sulfur, and you won't even smell it the next day. And for real, dude, it's kind of crazy. But and that's why we've done it so many different ways. In 21, we left it straight Laces style. Some of the bottles re-fermented, and we thought they were a loss. But when we began to taste through them with vendors and accounts, we realized that we accidentally made a fantastic sparkling wine. In 20, I want you to try one. They're actually really good. And in 22, I was guided by fear because of what happened. So I said, you know what, let's let it go dry. And it made the most amazing GG style Riesling. In 23, we went both ways, but the fruit was slightly botrycized because we had a really weird vintage out here in California, and we got a lot more hang time, but we also got some botrytis on the fruit. And I made a pet nat, and I made an off-dry Riesling that to this moment that we're talking is still fermenting in the stainless drums.
Wow. So I was going to ask you what your sugar levels on there, your bricks, but I guess it depends on what year.
The 21 is 9.9% alcohol. Oh. The 22 is 12.1. The 23 is going to land somewhere between that. Yeah, it's your play wine. It sounds like you know, all sorts of stuff with it. It's definitely a passion project, and the old timers in town laugh at me. They say, "Why do you make these grapes Counoise and Picpoul, and why do you worry about Riesling?" But at the end of the day, every single year, everything I mentioned has been sold out, and the old guys are standing in line to sell the Cabernet that they make in the same style as the neighbor for $250 a bottle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. How many cases of the Riesling do you make every year?
It's a single acre. The yield varies, so we usually get about 4 tons. I would say about 200-ish cases annually.
Yeah, I mean that's not much, and I can see why people start to love it and then it's gone.
It has a cult following for sure.
Oh, I can imagine. The Lake County Sauvignon Blanc. I've always been a Sauvignon Blanc fan. Was this dry, sweet, semi? Well, how do you handle this?
So the only wine with residual sugar ever is the Riesling. Everything else we do is dry. Selfishly, as an artist, first and foremost, I have to be excited and intrigued by the wines I'm making. So in 2022, we decided to do a stylistic experiment. We also make Napa Sauvignon Blanc, which we've always done in a Sancerre style, so stainless steel ferment, focus purely on neutrality and pushing varietal typicity to the forefront. But the Lake County is the opposite of that. It's done in a much more white Bordeaux style. It's barrel fermented. It's left on the lees. For a long time, it was so reductive. I don't think anybody liked the way it smelled. But now it's becoming this. Hey, you got to be honest with everyone, right? And
yeah,
the wines go but it's as savory as it is fruit forward. You get some spring onion. You know what I mean? You get some Parm cheese in there, but it has some really nice aromatics. But it definitely isn't, boxwood and passion fruit like what you would expect from a riper, Napa style. So that was a fun experiment, and it's interesting to taste them side by side. It's really cool for the people to visit us in downtown Napa, and it's also an opportunity to educate folks that might love Sancerre but don't even know that it's Sauvignon Blanc in that bottle.
Yeah, the good Sauvignon Blanc is really unique. I like. You don't oak that at all, do you?
So both see some oak. The Napa gets our second most neutral barrels, and it only gets 3 or 4 months. And really, that's just to kind of round out the sharpness on that wine. And then the Lake County is 100% barrel fermented, and it's left on the lees, and we don't do any stirring or batonage, but we really push the idea of spicing that wine with oak. It's balanced. It's not oak forward, and it's definitely not the first thing you notice, but what you do notice is a depth, a body, a diversity of character, which is something I really love. I actually will pick the Lake County over the Napa any day between the two wines.
Oh, wow. That's saying something there, The Chardonnay, is that oaked?
The Chardonnay is oaked. It's a 6th-generation family farm located in Clarksburg. They're some of the first non-indigenous people to settle in the area. It was a small group of families that came, and most of which were of Dutch descent. They did what the Dutch do. They dug canals. They made marsh and swampland agriculture. They grow tomatoes for Campbell's soup. They grow pears and apricots and a bunch of other things for Del Monte. They could never leave their property and be 100% self-sustainable. And when they brought me on board in 2019 was to help them market, and they asked me to make some wine, which, to be honest, I didn't really think much of the property, but we needed the money for the project. And after making the wine, I said, holy shit, we got something special here. And it's much more Chablis than Meursault in style, but it is 100% barrel fermented. It is left on the lees for 11 months. We're doing some stirring and badinage on that, but it's 11% alcohol, and it's a laser beam wrapped in reduction and matchstick and crispy tortilla. And, I oftentimes will pour it next to Premier Cru Chablis when I'm trying to open new accounts blind, and they have a hard time telling the difference, which I think is really cool because it comes from a very underrepresented part of California.
It really is. I guess that's one of the wines that you have with your Cuban food then.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, because it sounds like it would be well with a little bit of the spicy foods and all. Oh, very good. And then the Grenache Rosé. That's always been one of the big ones out of California. What is going into yours? What have you done with that?
Yeah, so we work with a family-owned winery based in Lodi. John and Lisa Gash are the proprietors. Pre-Winery is the winery. I've been with them since the beginning of this project, and they're CCOF certified organic. They're doing things the right way. We get Grenache, we get Mencia, we get Pickbull from them. And the Rosé, I was kind of uninspired when thinking of Rosé, but we were receiving so many requests that we said, hey, let's just make one because the wine will move. And, this is art, but it's also a business. And I was inspired by Viña Tondoña, Lopez de Heredia, and Domaine Tempier. And I wanted to make a rosé of substance. In year one, we just didn't have the tank space to store it in stainless for its life, its aging life. So what I did was, right before primary fermentation was complete, we transferred it over to our most neutral Loire Valley oak barrels. And we left it on its leaves. We never moved it. So what you get is a wine that is 100% attack forward. It's acid forward. It's sharp. But there's a bridge that carries from the attack into a finish that oftentimes is not the case with most rosés. Normally they're just like acid water, an afterthought. Yeah. Sometimes there's residual sugar, which I think is crazy. But it's a wine that ages surprisingly well. We're trying the 19s and 20s now, and they were long sold out, but we kept some for the library, and we're thinking they're really amazing right now. And I think Grenache is the perfect grape for rosé. Yeah. We're not doing a lot of skin contact. The wine's going direct to press. And one big thing for us, and a continuing thread through the entire portfolio, is only moving the wines when necessary, and pretty much leaving all the wines on fine leaves in a reductive environment. So the rosé tastes great the week it's released, but it tastes way better 6-7 months after.
Oh, really? Oh. Yeah, that a little bit of oak in there. That's interesting for a rosé. Usually they're all stainless, and so that's
well, you have to keep in mind that the implementation of stainless steel in vinification is a post-World War II phenomenon. In the day before stainless was invented, it was concrete or it was wood. So it's not that abstract of a concept, but it's just not what most people are doing in corporate wine, and that's what we aren't. We're willing to take those chances to make wines that are memorable, not safe.
What do you have any sweetness in this rosé?
It is bone dry.
Yeah, okay. I would think so. A nice bone dry Grenache rosé is excellent with fish, salmon, something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That would be very good with that. And we've got some. Well, let's see. There's a Rutherford Sauvignon Blanc. Why did you decide to do 2 Sauvignon Blancs?
I touched on it earlier. Selfishly, I have to be excited. Harvest is long, and if you're not really excited about something, it'll show in the product. And I'm always picking Chardonnay over Sauv Blanc, and when we included Sauv Blanc, it was one of those things of, hey, we can't exclude everybody. We want to provide an inclusive, experience. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it my way. And it's funny that through the years of experimenting, we've kind of settled on a style that's in between the Lake County and the Rutherford. And I'm really excited to release the 2023 because I think we finally found, our sweet spot between really sharp and acid-driven and lush and savory with notes of oak.
Yeah, the light floral Sauvignon Blanc classic. Yeah, that sounds good. I guess the Rutherford is more the classic style you're going to find throughout the United States, as opposed to the other, which will be more of a sincere that type of style.
Exactly, and I think the rising cost of Sauvignon Blanc grapes in Napa prevented us from being too experimental with that lot. So,
is the cost going up? I didn't realize Sauvignon Blanc was raising. I know all the others are. I would be no reason why not on Sauvignon Blanc, but.
It's tripled in price in the last 3 years. There's a huge shortage on the commodity level of Sauvignon Blanc, of Merlot, Cab Franc by county average. The state of California Ag Department releases a grape crush report each year, and I think for the last decade now, Cab Franc has been by county average the most expensive grapes in Napa.
Yeah, which is really, really sad because I love Cab Franc. I didn't realize that it was getting so expensive and so rare. That's too bad. You mentioned Cabernet Sauvignon earlier. You have a 2021 Napa Cabernet Sauvignon. Why is yours better than the 6 other Napa Cabernet Sauvignons?
We're pretty proud to say that it over-delivers. It punches above its weight class. I think there's a level of appreciation we have for the families and what they're doing at each individual farm. Cab is a grape that makes itself, and I'm going to sit here and say that our retail price on the Cabernet is $75, and it sits at the table with wines that are 10 times as much. So better or worse, I'm going to leave that to each individual consumer and their subjective nature. But I'll say that when you buy our Cab, when you drink our Cab, you're going to be really happy with the experience because of the price that you're getting it for. No corners have been cut. It's a blend of 3 vineyards, Silverado Bench, Coombsville, and Oak Knoll. Since we're not manipulating in the cellar, what we're doing is staggering the picks to achieve a classic style of Cabernet without having to ameliorate or add water or acidulate and add acid. We definitely have never sterile filtered a wine ever, and those are just natural standard operating procedures for every other cab house in Napa. So for the person who wants a classically styled Cabernet, but is done with proper values and ethics and strong principles, I think we're, at the front of the pack. And there's some other people that are also doing it, and we're very proud to say that there's a thriving counterculture underneath the Fiat Giants, but you do have to search them out. And even those people's, their wines are 3, 4, 5 times what we're asking for ours. And at the end of the day, we're not profiteers, we're artists, but this does have to support and sustain itself.
Okay. You've mentioned, and over my question keeps popping in my mind, and I'll say it now. Do you fine and filter all of your wines? I mean, we're not going to have any wines that have any leaves on the bottom of the bottle, are we?
None of the wines are fine. None of the wines are filtered. None of the wines have been inoculated. None of the wines have had anything introduced to them besides love and a small amount of sulfur. And you will, from time to time, find some precipitated tartaric acid crystals in the white. And from time to time, you might have a little bit of leaves at the bottom of the bottle. But the wines are clear, they're brilliant, they're precise, and they're executed in a way that we're proud of. And that's why we're waving the flag for the natural movement, to show people that these wines can also be as brilliant and as flawless as any of the other conventional wines on the market.
Yeah, well, and that's why I wanted to ask the question, because if you're going natural, if you start fining and filtering it, you're going to start losing some of that slant toward natural wines. So
when you filter, if you take something bad, you're taking something good with it. And we're willing to straddle the line between flaw and character. We're willing to not play it safe in the hopes of making something memorable.
Okay, very good. Going on with some of your wines here, your low diaconose, carbonic, is, you said this is the adult Kool-Aid. Is what sets this apart from the others?
Nunez is a fun grape. Its home is Chattanooga-Pop in the southern Rhone region of France. But even in its home, it's rare. Last time I checked, it was like 1 or 2% of the plantings. It was brought into the country and put through the quarantine process for the FDA by the Vu Telegraph family that also owns Cobbles Creek. They brought all 13 of the grapes that are allowed in Chattanooga-Pop in their home in the 90s. It's a grape that's drought tolerant, heat resistant, yields well, and is not so fussy. But it makes a wine that's light and delicate. And it really struggles achieving traditional standards of ripeness here in California. Because of that lack of, concentration, it was often perceived as a lesser grape. But when you taste our Nunez, what it lacks in color, it makes up for with a raucous character and an abundance of aromatic brilliance. And we do it in a traditional style of, carbonic maceration, which is found in Beaujolais, right south of Southern Rhone. And the idea being we want to minimize extraction. We're leaning into the idea of making a wine that almost looks like rosé but tastes like red wine and is 11% alcohol, but is not crispy, it's not jagged, it's not acid-driven. It's right where it wants to be. And we're proud to say that for, better or worse, the Nunez has kind of become our flagship and a way to separate us from everybody else, 100%.
Wow. Yeah. You don't see it. I mean, it is very rare that you'll see a Nunez anywhere, not just in Napa, anywhere outside of France. It's just very unusual to see it, especially as a varietal.
Even in France, I mean, it's not common, and it is included as an interplanted field blend, but that's it.
Yeah, it's used as blending more than anything else. Oh, well, that would be an interesting wine. Merlots, you have to do your Merlots. Your Sonoma Mountain Merlot, a good area for Merlots, if I may say. What have you done with your Merlot?
The Sonoma Mountain is an interesting site. The vines are very mature. I believe they're reaching 40 years of age.
Wow.
It's an east-facing site up in decent elevation on Sonoma Mountain. It's in an AVA that doesn't have a lot of vineyards, so we won't say the vineyard because we're not supposed to, but if you know your Sonoma Mountain vineyards, you're going to know it. It's a site that really takes a long time to ripen. It has grapes that have really thick skin, and because of that, it's the only wine that we produce that is more oxidative than reductive in nature. It also sees an extended, 100%. It sees an extended period of time on the skin, and we're ones that are willing to lean into things when we see them present. And the Sonoma Mountain Merlot, to me, I get savory herbs and eucalyptus when I taste, and it's a very interesting experience. And because of that, I love the wine. Unfortunately, the family that we were working with is not the easiest to deal with. So since 2022, we pivoted and we're working with the Capinaz family up in Geyserville. So we'll no longer make the Sonoma Mountain Merlot, and we'll soon release the Geyser Vista Merlot.
Oh, okay. It sounds like the Sonoma Mountain Merlot was like an inky, strong Merlot, much as you're leaving it on the skin. So
it kind of is
too
powerful, I'll tell you.
Yeah, too bad you're losing that. Well, you do have a Napa Valley Merlot. Is that going to be continued?
That'll be continued. It's a small vineyard, 2 acres, in Childs Valley, about 3 miles east of St. Helena. It's a high elevation valley. It's a tale of extremes in Childs Valley. When it snows in Napa, it snows up there. And when it's 100 degrees on the valley floor, it's 110 up there. And the vines are also mature. They're 40 plus years old. They're head trained, 10 by 10 spacing. We've seen, unfortunately, the yields at that vineyard begin to decline.
I can imagine.
We only got about a ton last year off 2 acres. So
wow.
It's a labor of love, but it makes for a powerful, curvy, but finessey Merlot that, to me, rivals any cab from the valley. And honestly, I would pick Merlot over cab any day. So it's good to see that Merlot is finally, generating some traction in the home markets again.
Yeah, Merlot's, well, I don't know. Merlot took a big hit during the movie Sideways, and I think it's a shame because a lot of people are still not going back to Merlot because of that. And but you comparing, you say you take Merlot over Cab. I'm close to you. I would take a Cabernet Franc over a Cab, and your Cabernet Franc looks delicious.
Dude, you would love it. I mean, same AVA, Childs Valley, same family, different parcels. I think they've really hit the mark there. They do a lot of canopy management and leafing. They don't drop a lot of fruit, which I'm a fan of. And it makes for a Cab Franc that is varietally correct, but doesn't have a lot of pyrazines. And I like that. You get the bouquet, you get the aromatics, you get the diversity and loudness of character, but in a refined way. And we did use some new oak on the Cab Franc, but we wanted to pull it back because we didn't want the aromatics from the new oak competing with what the varietal just brings to the table. So it's a fun one, and it's one that when you visit the tasting room and you get to try it, people always take the Cab Franc. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'd love to grade that and Barbera. I love both of those. The only one that looks like you blend is the Napa Red. Is that right?
100%. I'm big on single vineyard, single varietal. But the red blends we did because I wanted some flexibility. I wanted an opportunity to play with things and to create a blend each year that we thought was, and the sum is better than the parts, they say. And the red blend is 75% Cab, so we could have labeled it a Cab.
Oh, yeah.
15% Merlot, 10% Cab Franc, 100% Childs Valley. It's a big wine. It's the biggest wine we make, but it carries the weight well. And we did that for the people in search of a cult Cab when they walk into the place. You don't want to just pour them Counoise and pick pull. You want to have a chance. People come to Napa for a reason, and we stuck to our values in Epic, but we made a wine that I felt was much closer to what people expected from the Valley than what are in our hearts and our minds.
I see. Okay, so that is the blend. It sounds like phenomenal wines. I'm going to have to make a trip. I mean, every time I talk to somebody out there, I'm always getting closer and closer to jumping in a plane and flying out there. No Love Lost Wine Company. Where does that name come from?
I kind of touched on it earlier. I was making wine for an educational company that I was a partner in, and I just got tired of sommeliers and the measuring contest and the ego. And when I walked away from that company, I sold my shares, my interest in it, for 12 Cecian-Wald glasses, wine stems, and a bottle of vintage Calvados. And I said, hey, guys, no love lost, but I'm going to go focus on the wine stuff. And I had a bunch of wine in barrel. I had a bottling date set 4 months later, and I had no fucking idea. I had no idea what I was going to do. And that name stuck with me. And I said, this is kind of cool. It has multiple meanings. And, we want to develop and build a space where healthy discourse is welcome, and we can agree to disagree on things and not leave offended, and we can champion esoteric varietals in underdog regions. So the No Love Lost thing was something that just happened by accident. And like Bob Ross said, we took a happy little accident, a mistake, and we made it into a tree. And now it's grown into something, that stands on its own.
And it's a unique name. It's an interesting name. I like it. Mike, do you have any questions that I haven't covered or anything you want to ask?
No, I think you did a couple of things that were already covered. I don't have anything. Sorry about that. And I'm looking on chat. Any comments or anything there? I don't see anything related to this one. No, I'm good. I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your stories and everything with us. Thank you.
Jay, before we go, I want you to give our listeners all of your information for No Love Lost: phone numbers, websites, Facebook, Twitter, or whatever it's called now. Every way to get in touch with you. And also, before you do that, what are your tasting hours?
We're open from noon to 8 every day but Monday, and then noon to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday. We're at 960 Clinton Street in downtown Napa. You can find us on all social media platforms, as well as our website at nolovelost.wine, W-I-N-E. And give it a Google, and you can find all our information in a direct line to me. If you have any questions, Blaze, my content coordinator and tasting room manager, or I will be personally hosting and answering those questions. So if you want a truly authentic experience, if you want to sit in front of a winemaker and a viticulturalist and ask the right questions and immerse yourself in the culture, pop in. We'd love to host you. And we look forward to sharing a glass with you soon.
Your tasting, how much does it cost? And how do you work your tasting? You have flights, or what goes on with that?
We offer 2 flights. Our adventure tasting, which is basically an opportunity to showcase everything we do from outside of Napa. That's $30. And we offer a Napa tasting, which is $50. We waive the tastings with the 2-bottle purchase. But we also offer by the glass and by the bottle. You can come in and have a $6 glass of rosé, or you can come in and do a baller Napa Cab tasting. We're willing to be flexible and customize experiences. We also do off-site tastings and events for people that would love to come. They would love to have a sommelier come in and pour some wines. And we have a dinner this upcoming Saturday and the next Saturday with people that are visiting the valley and want something fun and an experience that helped outline what natural meant and provided them a level of diversity that gives them something a little different than the rest of the stuff in the valley.
That sounds fascinating. That's Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday on that too. So yeah.
It is
that's
Easter
great.
Sunday, you're right.
Yeah, Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday in the 2 weekends there. And one other question: are your families all over from Cuba now, or do you still have family in Cuba, or have you been back to visit? I'm just curious about that.
That's a great question. The onset of the Cultural Revolution of communism on the island of Cuba in the late 50s was a catalyst that really helped to divide families. We have people that are blood related, and we've kept in touch with them, but when my family left in the early 60s on both sides, my mother's and my father's, they came to this country, they became citizens, they made beautiful lives for themselves, and we're very proud to say we're American, and it's the best country in the damn world. And I've never been. I love my culture. I love Cuban music. I love Cuban food, but at this point in time, I was born in California, and I'm proud to be an American. I've never been to Cuba. When communism falls, I'll be the first one in line to go and experience the splendors of the island.
There you go. Yeah, we are in Florida here, so we come into contact with quite a few Cuban families, and so it's not unusual. You said your parents were in Florida for a while, so we have a lot of contact with Cubans here.
Oh yeah,
in fact,
my parents are in Orlando, and
are they?
I grew. Yeah, I was born in Los Angeles. I grew up in Orlando, and I love Florida, and I love the diversity of the population there, and the access not just to Cuban culture, but Puerto Rican, Venezuelan, Colombian. It's really cool.
Latino culture all over. I mean, and then all the different music. I mean, it's so amazing how different the music is from, say, Puerto Rico to the Panama Canal to Mexico and all that. It's amazing. So, but no, I was just curious, about your Cuban heritage there. So, Jake, thank you so much for taking the time this evening and telling us about No Love Lost Wine and your different wines and the natural movement. That's something that I've hit on every once in a while on this, but like you say, since there is no standard, it's hard to talk about it because it's almost like it's an act trying to get itself together. So it's good to hear that you have gotten your part of it together, and I'd like to see it expand even more.
Well, thank you for the kind words and for the support and for the opportunity to come and wave the flag for natural wines that are done properly. And we look forward to see what the future holds. And we're a sanctuary for anyone that's interested in learning more about wine or the culture that surrounds it here in Napa.
Yeah.
Well, I do plan on a venture to Napa in the future, and you will definitely be one of my stops. So hopefully one day I'll be able to shake your hand and taste your wines.
I look forward to it, my friend. You have a great evening, and I'm always here if you need anything.
Thank you very much, Jay. And you also have a wonderful evening, and good luck on your continuing harvest and your future in your wines.
Thank you so much. You take care, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, talk to you. All right. So that was Jay Nunez from No Love Lost Wine Company in Napa, and natural wines. Interesting. Like I told him, and you all, if you listen to the show, have heard, I've talked about all sorts of things, organic and biodynamic and regenerative, and a couple of other ones. But natural has always been sort of like, well, we'll hit on it lightly because there's no real standard. And I noticed that when I was researching another winery, they were doing natural, and there's no organization or anything that you can get a hold of and say, okay, you're a natural, who falls under this category, because there's nothing there, which is really sad. Like you said, he's like to see him get that going well, and because natural is a interesting movement for wine. Still, good.
Yeah.
Good time. Good talk.
Yeah. Interesting. I don't know if you have any follow-up things, but we do have another guest planned for next week, which is March 28th from Boutique Winery. Boat, B-O-A-T, I believe. Boutique Winery.
Yeah, B-O-A-T. Boat.
Yeah, we'll
Boat.
see how.
I thought that's really cute too.
Yeah, we'll hear their story next week and see how that all began and how they got the name and stuff, and talk to Joy and Patrick and about their wines. Absolutely. So we will. What time is it? 8 something? Oh, 8:07.
8:07.
Yeah. We'll close it down for this evening, and we'll be back next Thursday, the 28th, again with the two guests from Boutique Winery. At 7 p.m. live Eastern Time, right here on Blog Talk Radio. Thank you for tuning in.
Again, a couple of quick ones. Thank you, Jay, for taking the time to join us tonight. That was great. And Flightline Radio. Oh. Again, we have to hit that. Flightline Radio every day, every time. In fact, I've been listening to Flightline quite a bit.
Thank you.
Turn on station, throw on my headphones, and pay bills and do all sorts of paperwork here and look up the guests and what I'm going to do with them and all that, because you can put it on and continue surfing your computer and not have any issues with it in the background. So,
thank you.
But Flightline Radio is on 24/7, 366 this year, and Mike is live on Saturdays from 10 to noon. Then we have a replay of this show, and then Saturday evening from 8 to 10, he's got a new DJ and a new show that's on now with 80s music.
Yeah.
And 80s
the whole show.
Advertising, all sorts of. I mean, he dove into the 80s just like he was picking it up and just bringing it forward to 2024, just so you can hear what it was like in the 80s. I caught about 20 minutes of it Saturday night, and it was fun. He does a good job. So
it's good to hear. Thank you for that, and tune in. So you'll hear this show this coming Saturday. So if you're like catching the tail end and you're going, oh man, well, you can either replay it on Blog Talk Radio or something, but listen to it also on Flightline Radio.
But just listen to it on Flightline Radio.
Yeah, it comes on at 12 o'clock.
And also, I mentioned the Cigar Guys during interview with Jay, and they also do a show called First and 15th that Mike replays too. So listen for that. That's
another good one.
A very hilarious, hilarious. Two guys just sitting there just rambling on.
Yes.
They say the topic today is Tampa, and then you might hear the word Tampa mentioned one more time in the next hour because they just branch out to everything else.
Right.
But they're fun. Yeah.
Very free flowing show. It's entertaining for sure.
Yes. Yeah. It is. Yeah.
All righty. That'll do it for this week.
And this Sunday is Palm Sunday. So all of you out there who are Christians and who celebrate Palm Sunday, have yourself a nice Palm Sunday. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Tune in to All About Wine with Ron on Flightline Radio.
Wow.
There you go.
This is All About Wine, the talk show dedicated to the wine industry since 2009. Featuring winemaker, cellar master, vineyardist, and taster.
That is the intro. I thought you were saying something. I got it. Yeah.
I was trying to say, that's the intro.
That is the intro.
I can't control it from this end.
Hang on a second. I was like, he's talking, but he's not saying all about wine. He's not saying that. And I listened to it and I go, oh wait, that is the intro, and that's what he's saying. All right, which 32 buttons. It's got to be one of these. Let me try this one. Here we go. Here we go.
This concludes tonight's broadcast of All About Wine with your host, Ron. For show information, links to All About Wine on Twitter and Facebook, or to be a guest on this show, visit the show website at www.allaboutwinebtr.com. Archived shows are available for download on iTunes or on our show page at blogtalkradio.com/allaboutwine. Thank you